Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Unquestionably Raw, part of the 16 Wins a Ring podcast network. It's just Keith and I tonight. We're going to run the pick and roll for you guys for our power rankings. Then we're going to do the top 20 players currently in the NBA. And we got some news and notes and a question I've got for Keith. Into it tonight with our top 5 rookies, starting from 5 to 1. Keith, go.
All right, so at 5, I have Rodney McGruder from the Miami Heat. Been really solid. He's seen a lot of more minutes than I think he expected to see, or the Heat really want him to be seeing. But he's played really well, done a nice job down in Miami. That last spot in this ranking for me is probably going to be a revolving door. It's more of a thing, a moment in time, almost snapshot in time.
I think that's how it's been for all of us when we do these rankings with number 5.
Exactly. And then at 4, I've got Buddy Hield from the Pelicans. Starting to really come around, starting to really look like what the Pelicans thought they were getting. It's almost funny. It was for a while, it looked like they made a mistake. Instead of should have taken Jamal Murray. Now Murray has backslid a little and Hield stepped up. So both still very good players, really good prospects.
Yeah. And we've talked with Murray. He just doesn't get a lot of shots in that lineup when he's out there. They don't really look for him.
Yeah, and it's tough now. They've got Gary Harris back, too, so that is a really deep position.
And I looked at a game the other day with that backup unit, with the backup 5. Will Barton's the one taking all the shots.
Yeah, that's going to be the tricky thing for them is to get that figured out, that balance there. I feel like a broken record every time we talk about Denver, but they scream consolidation trade more than just about any other team in the league.
Absolutely.
All right, at number 3 in the rookie rankings, I have Dario Saric. He has played really, really well off the Philadelphia bench, starting to look better and better to me handling the ball.
Absolutely.
We knew he could shoot, knew he could score. Now he's starting to make some plays, and he's going to need to be able to do that just with the depth around him in that Philadelphia front court. Number 2, Malcolm Brogdon from the Bucks. He stepped up big time, had a triple-double the other night for Milwaukee, starting right now with Matthew Dellavedova out, and he has played really, really well. I probably missed on him last week and should have had him there. And then number 1, as it's probably going to be the entire season, Joel Embiid. He is by far and away the best rookie. It's not even particularly close.
Absolutely. Okay, mine, and I've got some stats here. I dove into it a little deeper. Right now, 5, I've got Dragan Bender, once again, revolving door. But last week for Bender, played 20 minutes, 4 games, 8 points, a block, 5 rebounds, 46% from 3, 54.5% from the field, a steal a game. He was fantastic for him last week now that they gave him a chance. Dario Saric at number 4, and last week Saric 13 points, 8 rebounds a game last week for him. He was really good after having a previous week not so good. I've got Buddy Hield at number 3 now, 13.8 points per game, 50% from the 3-point line last week. He's really looking good. 7 of his last 10 games in double figures. At 2, I've got Brogdon. Keith hit it, just last week, just alone, 10 points, 6 assists, 4 rebounds, 60% from the field, 40% from 3. He just does everything for them that they need him to do, and he really solidifies that second unit. Now, of course, starting with Dellavedova out, but he's been really good. The best rookie from this class. I'm not going to count Embiid because this, but, one, Joel Embiid, don't really have to say much like Keith said. So we can get into our MVP candidates now, Keith. 5 to 1.
All right, at 5, I've got Kawhi Leonard. He's tailed off a little bit. He was sick this week, so missed a little bit of time, but still playing really well, especially offensively, even if the defense has potentially slipped some. I think that's more of him just carrying such a big offensive load that they're not asking him to expend as much.
Absolutely.
On the defensive end, 4, LeBron James. Again, really, it's typical LeBron year. It's almost unfair at this point that we almost underrate him now. He's just so good all the time. 3, Kevin Durant, getting it done on both ends of the floor. And then 1 and 2, for me, it's probably going to be the 2 guys who battle back and forth all year. 2, I have Russell Westbrook, and 1, I have James Harden. My tiebreaker is Harden's team's a little better. So I'm going to go with Harden.
Absolutely.
And that's, if the Rockets continue at even close to this pace, and Harden puts up these numbers, I think he's going to definitely win the award despite Westbrook's nightly show he put on for Oklahoma City.
Absolutely. Okay, mine, I've got Kawhi Leonard at number 5. Everything Keith said. I mean, his defense has dropped off, but Lance a couple weeks ago made a good point. Teams are kind of freezing him out defensively, if you will. Whoever he's guarding, he just sits in the corner, so Kawhi can't be as effective defensively. So there's that. At 4, I've got Kevin Durant. I mean, we know about his scoring and his shooting numbers this year, off the charts. But defensively, he's been really, really good for them. I would say he's definitely NBA defensive team discussion this year. And 3, finally, I talked about it earlier with Keith. He's finally on my list as his team is now in the top 4. I got Russell Westbrook at number 3. Finally, averaging the triple-double. He's been great. At 2, I've got James Harden. And, I mean, we saw what he did. What was it? Saturday, I think 53 points, 17 assists, 16 rebounds. The guy's phenomenal. Yeah, he turns it over a lot, but so what? He's going to do that. He has the ball all the time. And I've still got LeBron number 1. I've had him there all year. He's the best player in the world. The Cavs right now, to me, are the best team. So I've got LeBron at number 1. And Westbrook, Harden, you can't go wrong either way there, I don't think. So, we'll see what happens. Now let's go to our top 10 teams, Keith. We'll go 10-6 right now.
All right, so at 10, I have the Charlotte Hornets. 9, the Oklahoma City Thunder. 8, the Memphis Grizzlies. 7, the Utah Jazz. And 6, the Boston Celtics. All those teams are pretty close to me. The reason I put the Celtics at the top is I think you're going to start to see them gain ground here in the next little bit. They've played one of the most road-heavy schedules in the league. And they're finally going to start taking the home games here as the calendar's turned into 2017. So with that happening, I think you're going to start seeing them pick up the winning pace a little bit more. And then, Utah, Memphis, and OKC, that's going to be, they're firmly in that group. The one team I had to take out was the Clippers. They've been so bad lately. I think it's 6 straight losses now, and they've dropped all the way down to 7th in the Western Conference. I know injuries are a factor for them, but they're just not looking like the same team that started the season.
No, not at all, not at all. And with Boston, they gave Cleveland a tough game on Thursday night as well. So they're really starting to play well. We talked about it a little last week. They're really separating themselves with that 3 seed, and they're close enough they could possibly catch Toronto. Toronto lost a couple games last week, so we'll see. On mine, I've got the Clippers at 10. Keith said they've just been really bad. I've got Memphis at 9, 8. I've got Boston at 7, and I've got the Toronto Raptors at 6. I moved them down. Bad loss to Phoenix. I mean, nothing against the Raptors. They're a great team, but I just knocked them down because they lost to Phoenix. Keith, 5 through 1.
All right, so 5 through 1. At 5, I have the Toronto Raptors. 4, Houston Rockets. 3, San Antonio Spurs. 2, Golden State Warriors. 1, Cleveland Cavaliers. Kind of go backwards in my thought process. Cleveland beat Golden State. I think Cleveland right now is the best team in the league. Golden State's probably going to finish with a better record, but the Warriors are, they're still a very good team, and I'm looking forward to seeing those two meet up again later in the year. And then the Spurs, they're just kind of, that machine just keeps running in San Antonio. They just keep winning games no matter who's there, who's not there. It doesn't really matter. They just do what they do. And then at 4, I have the Rockets. The offense has been so fantastic, 140 points the other night, and and even for how good Harden's been, Ryan Anderson and Eric Gordon have been lights out. Trevor Ariza has been really solid. Getting play from Nene and Montreal Harrell that they could not have expected that they were going to get those two guys to be that good. They've just been phenomenal. And then the Raptors in 5th. It's no knock on Toronto. Just the other teams have been that good, but I think Toronto is squarely the second best team in the East. I don't think Boston, maybe the Celtics could catch them. We'll see, but it's going to have to take Toronto stepping back. But Kyle Lowry and DeMar DeRozan are just playing at such a high level right now. DeRozan has tailed off some, but as he did, Lowry's picked up his place, so they haven't missed a beat overall as a team. They're just playing lights out basketball.
Absolutely. I agree. And on and I fourth it. The Rock. There's historic, out with OKC. From the do State, like Keith said, Cleveland beat them. So
Hey, Matt, I think your mic's breaking up.
18th. Oh, sorry. Up. Bad. You got it.
And their guys just having a momentary technical difficulties.
Oh, shit. God damn it.
Matt, I think I might be able to hear you now.
Okay.
Nope, still breaking up.
Eddie for the let's see.
Oh, there you go.
Now,
Yeah, I can hear you now. Nope, lost you again.
oh, where did I cut out at?
It was right when you started in on your top 5 teams.
Oh. What's up, Keith?
There we go.
Okay, sorry about that, man. This internet connection popped. We can edit all that stuff out, though. So,
Yeah, no worries.
where did I cut off at with my ranking?
It was
where did I cut off at?
Right when you hit your top 5.
Okay, I'll start that over. I'll start my top 5 over again. And I had Utah 5. I've got the Spurs at 4, and I put the Rockets at 3 because I actually think they're a better team. I think the Rockets will beat them in a best of 7. So I put them 3. I got the Warriors at 2 and Cleveland at 1. Yeah, their record is slightly worse than Golden State, but they beat Golden State. So I've got to go with Cleveland at number 1. All right, now we're going to get into our top 20 players. Keith, go from 20 to 16.
All right, 20 to 16. So to clarify for everybody, this is for this season. This isn't necessarily who we take if we're starting teams or anything like that. It's just based off their play this year. So at 20, I have Kristaps Porzingis, 19, Kemba Walker, 18, Kevin Love, 17, DeMar DeRozan, and 16, Gordon Hayward.
Nice.
I think Hayward and DeRozan were probably my toughest two, and I think Hayward has really stepped up his all-around game and really has carried Utah quite a bit, whereas DeRozan's had just that much more help. So I gave Hayward the slight nod over DeRozan.
Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong. Okay, mine, I told Keith earlier I cheated with 20. I've actually got 4 guys because I didn't want to leave any of these guys off because they've been really, really good this year. So I've got Jabari Parker, Kemba Walker, John Wall, and Kyle Lowry all in there. I just think these guys have been fantastic. So that's my number 20. At 19, I've got Gordon Hayward. He's just really carrying the load offensively for Utah, keeping him in there. Yeah, he missed a few games. At 18, I've got Rudy Gobert. And, I know we've had a big love fest on this podcast with Rudy Gobert. We all love the guy. Defensively, he just does everything for them, protecting the rim, rebounding. And then his offensive game has improved so much. At 17, I've got Damian Lillard. He's been injured the last few games. I don't think he's going to play this next one. But he's been really good for them, even though their record is not that great where we thought. Got Kevin Love. He's back to Minnesota Kevin Love again. He's, double machine, knocking down threes. He's been really good. 15 to 11.
15, Kyrie Irving. 14, DeMarcus Cousins. 13, Chris Paul. 12, Steph Curry. And 11, Kyle Lowry. Realize that's like Cousins and the point guards, but it's all those point guards are pretty much, take your pick. They're all really good. Curry's slid back just a little bit this year, and I think it's funny. People are asking me questions occasionally, like, what's wrong with Steph Curry? Well, because he's not playing at a historic level like he was the last couple of years, doesn't necessarily mean anything's wrong with him. He's still a top flight player. Any team in the league would love to have him, and and he's also probably the guy who has started to sacrifice a little bit more with Kevin Durant around, where Klay Thompson was that guy at the beginning. Now it seems like it's a little bit more Curry, but all those guys having terrific years. Really take your pick of point guards, and you'll be in pretty good shape.
Absolutely. Mine, I'm with you at 15. I've got Kyrie Irving. At 14, I've got Isaiah Thomas. I think he's been great for Boston. They're separating themselves. He had the 50 the other day. He's been fantastic. 13, and this I got to give the guy some love. He's been really great this year. DeMar DeRozan. Tailed off just a little bit, but still fantastic. At 12, I've got DeMarcus Cousins. He's got the Kings in the 8th seed tied with Denver right now. So, I know he's got his issues, but he's been great for them this year. At 11, I've got Chris Paul. I think, he's been hurt. He should come back soon, but they've started to drop off a little bit. And I think the guys I have in the top 10 have been slightly better than him this year, or a lot better. So I've got Paul at 11. Keith, 10 through 6.
All right. So 10 is where I have Isaiah Thomas. He is just carrying the Celtics. His fourth quarter scoring is insane. This year, he's right there with Westbrook and Durant in terms of being able to carry his team offensively. 9, Jimmy Butler, doing it all on both ends, and unfortunately more and more doing it all by himself as Dwayne Wade has slipped off, and now Rajon Rondo is completely out of the picture. 8, Anthony Davis. Watch out for the Pelicans. They're playing a lot better. They're really starting to come on, and Davis is obviously a huge part of that. 7, Marc Gasol. He really carried Memphis through that entire period where they were just missing multiple players and kept them afloat. In 6, Giannis Antetokounmpo. There's almost nothing this guy can't do on the basketball court. I think if you had to make me pick, I would pick him as the first guy that we're going to see of this generation have a quadruple double or even a quintuple double. I wouldn't even fully take off the table with him if he just wanted to go out there and chase blocks and steals, because the rest of it he can seemingly get with relative ease when he needs to.
Absolutely. All right. At 10, I've got Jimmy Butler. He does everything for the Chicago Bulls. Without him, they might be the worst team in the NBA. I mean, we see what's going on with Rondo. We'll talk about that in a little bit. At 9, I've got Steph Curry. Everybody, I know he's my favorite player, but I have to drop him off. He's he has taken a step back this year. And I don't, like Keith said, there's nothing wrong with him. I mean, he had a historical season last year. I mean, it's hard to keep those kind of numbers up. The shots he was hitting, he's going to drop off a little bit from that. At 8, I've got Marc Gasol. He's been great. Without him, Memphis would be in trouble. Conley goes down, and Mark just carried that team. At 7, I've got Giannis Antetokounmpo. I agree. We may see a 5-double from this guy and all that good stuff. He's 7 feet, can do everything. And I had an argument with a buddy of mine today. He called me crazy, but I said Antetokounmpo right now is better than Penny Hardaway ever was. He called me a hater. Give me Giannis over Penny all day long, especially what he can do defensively. Way better than Penny ever was defensively. At number 6, I've got Anthony Davis. The numbers don't for them, and they're starting to win some games. I think recently, I don't know if they've played a game since, but the last time I watched the Pelicans play, they had been 11-7 since Drew Holiday came back, which just goes. Anthony Davis needed just one more guy, so I've got him at number 6. Keith, 5 through 1.
Yeah, just real quick on the Pelicans, they're a game out, and Portland isn't showing any signs of getting any better. Sacramento and Denver both been playing pretty good, but the Pelicans are right there. I think they've got a good chance of grabbing that 8 seed. All right, my top 5 is going to be the same as my top 5 MVP guys in the same order. So Kawhi Leonard, LeBron James, Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, James Harden. It's hard for me to change up that order much. If those are my 5 in the MVP, those are my 5 for guys who have been playing the best so far this season.
I totally agree, and mine's the exact same way. I got Kawhi at 5, KD at 4, Westbrook at 3, Harden at 2, and LeBron at 1. I don't have to go into that because we talked about it during our MVP. Now I've got a question for you, Keith, and it came from my guy Dukes. He put this in the comments section of our last podcast on it was Friday, I believe, and he wants to know your thoughts on Sullinger, you being a Celtics fan. He says that currently their power forward position is a black hole, and does getting Sullinger back, does that move the needle that will pay huge dividends for these guys?
I don't know how much it moves the needle. I don't think it moves them past Cleveland. I think that's still a pretty wide gap there, but he's definitely going to help them whenever he's able to play. The whole idea with Sullinger was that he was going to be probably their starting power forward and, in effect, their backup center. And they've actually gotten a really good play out of Bebe Nogueira. He's played really solid for them. I don't think they expected him to be quite as good as he has been. So Sullinger coming back there. Now Patrick Patterson has gone down with a knee injury, so hopefully it's nothing serious and will only be out for a short amount of time. And that's where Sullinger can help. The good thing is where he can definitely help them is on the boards. He is a very good rebounder. He does a solid job holding his position there and hold guys off. If Valanciunas gets in foul trouble, which he tends to do a lot against the better teams, Sullinger can step in, and they're really not going to miss that much. The East doesn't have those big, monster centers like the West does. So Sullinger, you can get away with playing Sullinger at the 5. So I don't know that it's going to change much for Toronto. They're already really, really good, and they're probably still a notch below Cleveland. But I definitely think he will help them. And, the additional depth certainly doesn't hurt anything at all. And what it could do is if he can get back and prove healthy, because Pascal Siakam has played, well enough to hold down that spot, it could make Patterson a tradable piece to go get somebody else if they needed to.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. The only thing you worry about with Sullinger, he does have the injury history.
Yeah.
I think that's the only thing with him. Now on to some news from this week. We'll start with let's start with Paul Millsap. I guess the Hawks are taking phone calls. Keith, what's going on with Paul Millsap?
Absolutely. So the news broke yesterday. Not necessarily unsurprising. The Hawks are not the type of team that really wants to rebuild. They would rather rebuild on the fly. They're not going to go into the tank. So you're going to see the Hawks try to rebuild on the fly. Millsap, being a free agent, could walk this at the end of this year and leave the Hawks with nothing. They're also taking calls on Kyle Korver and Thabo Sefolosha as well. Atlanta really, I think, has figured out they're about what they're going to be. They're probably going to be in the playoff mix, maybe a playoff team, but it's going to be in the lower half of the East. potentially a first round out, depending on, if luck really needs to break for them to get the right matchup to win. And I think what they're looking at is it could be time to recoup some assets or get some assets, I guess is a better way to put it, for these guys who probably aren't part of the future in Atlanta. And Millsap obviously can help a number of teams. So what you could see is them, really bringing guys who can not only help now, but also help in the future. So maybe guys who are ready to play right now, so they're not going to downgrade all that much for this season, but are under team control or have better future years coming as prospects. Let's say, I put together a piece for 16 wins a ring, but all the teams I thought could make sense for Millsap, and there's probably 4 or 5 teams I missed because he would help so many teams. Same thing with Kyle Korver. His contract is really cheap, so he's very tradable. Still a good shooter. Still draws a lot of the defensive attention. And Cephalosha, if a team's looking for 3 and D guy, or slightly 3, a little more D guy on the wing, he could definitely help there. So Atlanta's going to be active, I would say, over the next couple of weeks, and I would not shock me if the Hawks look drastically different here in within the next month or so.
Absolutely. All right, this goes on to our next piece. Donatas Motiejunas, Demo. What's going on with him? Because I saw something earlier. They're still working on the contract, I guess.
Yeah.
With
so
the Pelicans.
At one point today, it looked like it was all done. I have not seen anything to counter that. And so it looks like he is going to be joining the Pelicans. It's a league minimum contract. Whether or not he signed it today or it'll get signed, in a day or so, but he is going to definitely join the Pelicans down there in New Orleans. The deal for Tim is obviously we talked all about his situation and what a mess it was between the Nets and the Rockets, and finally becoming a free agent and everyone agreeing to move on. And now he's playing for the league minimum. But what he's looking at in New Orleans is the potential to be on a potentially playoff team, as we talked about. They've been playing a lot better. They need another big man because they're really rolling with a trio of Anthony Davis, Dante Cunningham, and Terrence Jones, because they are not playing Omer Ashik or Alexei Ajinça at all at this point. So Motiejunas can definitely come in there, come off the bench is what I'm thinking is most likely. Role will be at least to start out, give them some scoring punch off the bench. And then I could even potentially see him starting at the 5 next to Anthony Davis, where he can, stretch the floor a little bit, get him some points inside. Davis can help cover for him defensively. I think it's really Motiejunas is looking at it as, where can I get minutes on a decent team, rehab my value, and look for that big contract this coming summer.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, now I've got Rajon Rondo. He's out of the rotation now. What's going on with him? Are they going to just buy out his contract, cut it?
Yeah, the Bulls.
Losses? Because he's been a disaster for them, for the Bulls.
Yeah, he absolutely has been. I kind of put it out there. When you're getting benched for Michael Carter-Williams and Jerry Grant, it's really probably time to think about things, because neither one of those guys is any great shakes either. But, Rondo, it's just he's so limited offensively at this point. He needs the ball a ton, but he needs it to try and create assists. He's going to probe the defense for 20 seconds and then try to find somebody. He's not a shooter. He's not a threat. His defense has really fallen off. His effort's inconsistent on that end of the floor. And a lot of people are still jumping to his defense, but those people are looking at what he was for the Celtics back in the day, and he's nowhere near that player anymore. Chicago says they're not going to waive him and that they really aren't looking to trade him, but it sounds like he's going to ask for a trade if he doesn't get back in the rotation here. Now, Dwayne Wade's going to miss, I think they're playing tonight, or the next game at least. He's going to be out with they're playing tonight. So, and it sounds like Wade's out with some knee soreness.
Charlotte tonight.
Yeah. So if that becomes a thing with Dwayne Wade, then maybe we could see, Rondo get back in the rotation, because they are a little thin at the guard position. But, I think it's just for Rondo at this point, that Chicago situation is not really working out. So he's probably done there. And then you have him. He's got to figure it out. If he's not willing to accept a much lesser role in a team's offense and potentially even a backup point guard role, his NBA career could be finished.
Yep, I agree. And what this could do, the terrible front office that the You could be looking at Garpax on their way out with these terrible signings and the way they've constructed this team. You know, they brought Hoiberg to come in, the space and pace threes, but they didn't put that kind of roster around him.
Yeah, absolutely. They're not giving Hoiberg the kind of players he wants. It's funny. They drafted Denzel Valentine, who's really kind of a Hoiberg guy. Like he's, you know, a little bit of a bigger guy, but can handle the ball, pass it, do a lot of things, and then he doesn't really get to play ever.
Yeah.
And I don't know that that's necessarily on Hoiberg or on Valentine. I think Hoiberg might be operating with one hand tied behind his back as far as who's going to play. But we all saw this coming, right? You added two complete non-shooters in the backcourt. Everybody got all excited because Wade hit a bunch of threes early in the year, but you know, it can't teach an old dog new tricks. Tiger changes stripes.
No.
Analogy you want to use. He's, you know, he is what he is at this point. And what really is sad for me is you're seeing a guy like Jimmy Butler who is just killing it every night and really killing himself out there every night, and it's really being wasted. And I don't think the Bulls are going to be in the next 3-4 weeks any better than they are now, and they're probably likely to be worse. So it's time for them to really consider, what do you want to do with some of these pieces and move on. The challenge has always been Chicago doesn't rebuild, right?
Mm-hmm.
They always want to be in the playoffs every single year. So that's also, you know, I don't think Gar Forman and John Paxson have done a necessarily fantastic job by any means, but I think they're also operating under constraints of make the playoffs every year versus, all right, let's, you know, really drop back for a year or two, rebuild this and get back in there. It's just
is a lot of this coming down from Jerry Reinsdorf?
Yeah, he wants to be in the playoffs every year. You know, he likes playing meaningful basketball. You see the same way he runs the White Sox. He wants them in the mix every single season. Doesn't want to sell guys off and trade guys. He wants, you know, them to be good. You know, and it's, you know, I mean, that's his prerogative as an owner, right? I think it's just at some point you hope you have a strong enough general manager and front office team and coach that can say, hey, the right thing to do is step back for a year and really start to rebuild this.
You would hope. He did just trade Chris Sale, the best player on the White Sox, you know, a few weeks ago. So maybe, you know, because look at, they've got their own pick. They'll probably get the Kings pick because I think the Kings are going to be right there at the board of the, so they'll get that pick. You trade Jimmy, you could get 3 picks. You could have 3 of the top 15 picks in this strong draft, and that could, and it might not even be a rebuild. You could be in the playoffs the second year.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for example, I think the Celtics would gladly give up this year's Nets pick, which is projecting to be, you know, top 3 at a minimum, if not top 1 or 2. And, you know, depending on lottery luck, obviously. But I think the Celtics would gladly give that up, as well as, you know, a couple young prospects and guys to, you know, expiring contracts to match salary to get their hands on Jimmy Butler. It's
Absolutely.
just
and question for you.
Yeah.
If the Celtics were to make that move, do Jimmy and IT, would they fit well together?
I think
backcourt pairing.
I think they would, because I think what you want with Thomas is you want someone who can really hold his own. I look at Jimmy Butler. What he really is a much, much better version of Jay Crowder, and Crowder fits fantastic with Isaiah Thomas. I can see Thomas really stepping off the ball a little bit more with a guy like Butler, who can do some more of the ball handling and playmaking, more so than Crowder can. And that, you know, helps them both, and that gives them both that opportunity to kind of, you know, play off the ball a little bit. Plus, Brad Stevens is, you know, he's shown the ability to really create a fantastic offense. But I don't want to get the Celtics fans too excited, because I don't think it's
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're going to wrap up tonight. You know, that's about all we have on the slate for you guys. But I'm going to go to you, Keith, real quick to give 16 Wins a Ring a nice plug here.
Yeah, just please go check out 16winsaring.com. We have so much great content up already. We've only been live about 2 weeks now, and we've put out so much great stuff. We've got a lot of great stuff coming. I'm, you know, fortunate to be lucky enough, privy to what a lot of our writers are working on, and a lot of fantastic pieces as we roll into the new year here. We've got something for everybody, so please check it out, 16winsaring.com. Hit up the Twitter account, 16 wins a ring, no spaces, anything like that. The number 16 wins a ring. We are going to be really doing well, and, you know, hopefully, you know, you're reading. We're we're starting to gain a following, and we've got quite a few people saying a lot of nice things. So we really, really appreciate that. So by all means, give us a follow. Check us out, 16windsorring.com. Here with Unquestionably Raw, we're thrilled to be a part of the podcast network. We got a big announcement coming next week on another pod that's going to join the team. I won't step on their toes with that. So we've got a lot of great things happening. So many talented writers as part of this group. A lot of people's favorites out there with Twitter. So hopefully we will continue to grow. And please give feedback on what you like, what you don't like, what you want to see more of, less of, and those kind of things, because that's the only way we all get better.
Absolutely, absolutely. And for everybody, go on iTunes, subscribe, comment, leave us a written review. That way we know where we can improve on. And I know you guys are doing a good job on the YouTube page, leaving comments. Big shout out to Duke's comment and leaving, even if there's some criticism, hey, we welcome it. It lets us know what we're doing, where we can make some improvements. So we definitely appreciate that. It's nothing but love. So you're not gonna hurt any of our feelings. It is what it is. It's all good. But we'll be back again 7 Eastern on Wednesday. So until then, we will see you next time.